Hi, welcome to Women Living Passionately, honest conversations with our amazing women who are living their passion and purpose and making a difference in the world. So you can get inspired and also get tools and ideas you can start using right away to live a happier, healthier life. I'm your host, Natalie Matoshenko, and for the past 16 years, I have been working with smart, soulful go-getters to figure out what they were put on this earth to do and start doing it. So today, I have a special treat for you, Sara Chevere. Sara and I met actually recently on a summit for moms that we were both on as experts, and I loved what Sara's work was all about. Sara is the creator and founder of the Financially Fit Women, where she helps women, couples, and entrepreneurs become financially fit by teaching them about money. Sara has been in the finance and mortgage industry for over 17 years, and she loves to talk about money, and her mission is to educate and empower women to have the confidence to achieve financial freedom. So hi, Sara.
Hey, how are you, Natalie? And hello, Sarah Nation. How is everyone doing today? I'm so happy and honored to be here today.
Well, I'm so happy to have you here because, as I mentioned to you, the reason I was so excited when I met you is because I think, I have yet to meet a person who doesn't have, money issues, be it making money, saving money, spending money. I think I mentioned to you, I myself have a degree from a top business school in finance, and yet, my story with money was often one of, oh, I don't want to deal with it. And I know that in doing the work that I do, the number one reason people don't follow their passion and purpose is often because of the money. They're afraid they won't make enough money, or, losing status, or, basically money is a big, big deal in our lives. So that's why I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank
So
you.
welcome again. So why don't we just jump right in? Why don't you tell us how you came to be doing what you're doing? Like, basically, how did you find your passion and purpose from the mortgage industry to what you're doing now?
So it's very interesting. It's obviously been a journey. Obviously, I'm originally from Puerto Rico, for those who don't know, and that's why Chevere is my Spanish last name. And then in English, for those who cannot pronounce it, I say Chevere. So, I'm really from Puerto Rico, and I felt that I needed something more, something bigger, and I ended up somehow in Southern California in the United States. But unfortunately, I was never really educated when it comes to money. Actually, where I come from, money was taboo. We didn't really discuss any money matters. And when it comes to financial education in the island, there's definitely none as well. So but I felt into the financial industry, in the mortgage industry, and because other people believe in me. I didn't see it in myself, but other people actually believe that I was capable of doing these things. And but obviously, I don't know if you guys know, like, even though I was very successful in the mortgage industry, the rug was pulled from under me when the market crashed in 2008. And I needed to reinvent myself. I needed to do something else. And thanks to amazing mentors and coaches, I was able to realize, that I did have a passion, and also I felt that it was my calling and my purpose to coach other people as well. Now, it wasn't that easy because obviously it took a lot of growth. It took a lot of personal growth, a lot of business growth from on my end. And finally, once after all the coaching therapists that I went through, to eliminate all those self-limiting belief, and also my vision, and clarify what I wanted to do, I became a certified life coach, and working on with business. Now, when it comes to business, I thought that I was going to be a business coach, right? And I love it. I love to talk about business, and I help a lot of people on that. But at the same time, I felt that I was too spread out. I felt that I didn't have a niche. And that I'm very versatile. I could talk about every single topic, but at the same time I wanted to have a tribe. I felt that I needed to have like a community. And again, it's been on my nose the whole time. Obviously, I love to talk about money, finances. Like is my background. I understand it. I know how to do it. And obviously, every day I learn a little bit more. But that's when I realized that I have a niche. I always had a niche, right? And it's about money. And I always believe that financial education is the path to freedom. So in order for anybody, no matter what your purpose is, what your passion is, in the end, all we want freedom. And the only way to achieve that is by getting financially educated. And that's how I created the Financially Fit Women.
Wow. Well, that's
because I love to work with women too. Obviously, I work with men too, but I think as women, we have certain mindset, right? That the man is the one that brings the bacon to the house, right? Or that we don't need to make as much money as the man, or basically sometimes we don't believe in ourselves. We have self-imposed things, and we don't even realize this. And I can give you some examples if you want.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that. I mean, there's so many things that you said that I know are really going to speak to my audience here. First of all, I have to tell you, and I know you know this, but in Colombia, where I live now, chévere means great or awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
So I love that. When I met you, Sara Chevere, I was like, Sara, awesome and great. So I had to mention that. And I know that what you shared speaks to so many people listening, especially so many women, because I think we're often not educated with money, regardless of where we come from. In the US, in Colombia, in Puerto Rico, in the Ukraine, where I was originally born, money and really having like a healthy relationship with money, neither attaching too much importance to it or too little, knowing how to earn it, knowing how to manage it, how to save it without stress. How many of us get that kind of education? Which is why there's so many issues that we all have around money. And it's funny when you said that, how as women, maybe we expect the man to bring home the bacon. I have to confess, there was a little part of me that was sort of like, oh, come on, that was 50 years ago. But then a second voice in my head, I actually remember, my mother actually was more financially successful than my father. She had a big career and she always made more money. But I will never forget being like 9 years old. And for some reason, we were to dinner, the three of us. I was an only child. And I asked them who made more money. And I'm not sure why I asked, because I knew the answer. And my mother basically sort of like didn't answer it first. And then when I kept pushing, she basically made it seem like my dad made more money.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is, beside the fact that she was very successful and, my grandmother was a top cardiologist and had a career. So I come from a long line of empowered career women who, quite frankly, always seem to make more money than the men and, manage the money. And
that's awesome.
That societal message, that somehow that wasn't okay or that would cause problems in the relationship was so strong that I realized, that was one of the messages that I received growing up.
Yes. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's what it is. And as women, like we feel that I can give you an example that, when there's a man and a woman and they're both go to apply for the same job, let's say that they're looking for a career and they're applying for the same job. Normally women, they look at the qualifications, and if they don't have at least 95% to 100% of the qualifications that they're looking for, they will not apply to that job. Now with men, if they at least have 60% of the qualification, they say, oh, I can do this and I'll figure out the rest. Right. So it's the mindset things, right? We self-impose our own limitations sometimes. It's sometimes not all the people, sometimes our own. So we need to find out, where is our state of mind, where is our mindset, our heart when it comes to money matters. And also, like do we really appreciate money? Because sometimes you say, oh, money doesn't matter, but it does. Like it gives you choices. Money gives you choices, and to not only for you, but for the people that you want to change lives to as well.
Right. Yeah, I remember I took this great spiritual money course, and one of the things that the guy talked about was, when you're especially when you're in the spiritual fields or the helping fields, it's like there's this element of like, oh no, I don't do this for the money, right? And okay, you probably don't do this for the money, and yet money, as you say, gives us freedom, gives us choices, gives us the ability to do what we want to do. And he had this great story about being in the hospital and noticing that the wing of the hospital, this beautiful wing, was donated by someone. And he said, you know what? It wasn't a poor person who donated that. Like, you can choose to do good things with your money. You can not only
Absolutely.
have choices for yourself and for your family in terms of how you want to live, but you can have the power to help others and affect the lives of others if you yourself have money. So, it was a real kind of aha moment for me in terms of, you know what? It's time to claim that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you already spoke quite a bit about the mindset issues that you had to overcome, but maybe if we can go a little bit deeper, because I know a lot of people watching this are like, oh my God, there's like a list, of
Yeah.
issues that have around money. So what were the
Well,
obstacles that you had to overcome? Like more deeply.
Well, again, like let's start with the alignment, right? Because like our brain tends to be our masculine, right? And as women, our heart and the heart is the feminine, right? And sometimes because the mind is so masculine, we don't want to deal with it, right? We all we want to do is just feel, have emotions, but we actually have to align our brain and our heart when it comes to any matter, right? But when it comes to money, we have to do that too, because like our emotions attached to the money matters sometimes are very negative, and we feel that it will make us too masculine to deal with money matters. So the first thing that we need to do in when it comes to financial education and money mindset is realize that both have to be aligned, the mindset, your brain, and your heart when it comes to these money matters. And you have to love money, and again, not because you want to be greedy, no, because you want to make a difference, because you really want to make a difference. And then we have to start on our own path of financial education. So again, in my case, for example, even though I saw money, and I was always interested in it, but because I didn't get financially educated, I feel that if I knew the things that I know now 20 years ago or even 30 years ago, I would be in a completely different situation right now. And that's what we need to do. And there are three myths or three things that stop people from achieving that. The first one is that they feel that it is too late for them to start saving money, or to start changing their financial situation, or to make something out of them. And the reality is, it's never too late. There's a lot of women that has been able to create empires and has been able to create a lot of things even after 40. Ariana Huffington, I forgot her last name, but like also Julia Childs, for example, like they created their brand, they created their empire later in life. So again, it's never too late. Other people, obviously, they have fear when it comes to doing, getting financially fit and financially educated, because they don't trust who the information is coming from. Well, hire somebody, like hire a coach or somebody that can teach you about that, right? And can teach you about the concepts of money, because what we want to do is apply the concept of that 1% of the wealthy people in the world and drag it to everybody else, right, to the masses, so they can understand. And instead of being manipulated, right, if they're educated, they can make their decisions for themselves, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, because that is just so important. I think as you point out, a lot of people are afraid to deal with it, right?
yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
I know in our case, as I mentioned to you, the way I was raised in an immigrant family, and I was very much taught never, spend what you can't afford. So I never had, a dollar of credit card debt, for instance. It just never even occurred to me. And my husband either. It was like, we just use it as a way not to carry money around. But on the flip side, we both realized we were taught to kind of distrust, ironically, because we both worked in finance, distrust where the advice is coming from, and that no one's an expert. So what has been hard for us, for instance, for many years until we figured it out, was how to invest it. Like, who do you trust to invest your money? Who do you trust to take care of it if you don't have the time to deal with it yourself? And so it's just amazing how you can just have money on so many, you can have money issues, right? On so many different levels. Oops, I think we're a little stuck. Sarah, you there? Hello? Oh, hello?
Yeah, it seems that we froze off for a
Yeah,
little bit.
I'm not sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, there you are. I can hear you now.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody.
So the other one. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And at least you had that finance background. So obviously, can you hear me well?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you.
Okay. So what I was mentioning is that at least you had that finance background that allowed you to be conservative when it comes to money, and which is great, because unfortunately in a lot of places, even here in the United States, or even Mexico, they don't teach all these concepts. And it's kind of funny, because a lot of people that come from Mexico, they think that they come to the United States to learn about these concepts, and then they realize that they're not there either, right? So the last myth that I want to mention, that a lot of times stop people or even women from starting their financial education, or starting, saving, or starting creating the life that they want for the future, is that they feel that they don't make enough money, right? But it doesn't matter, even if it's $20 a month that you can save, which I know that people can actually save, or separate more than that. But if it's at least $20, the most important thing is to start. That's the most important thing, to start separating that money.
Right. So it's just never too late. Never too late. Doesn't matter how much you make.
Yes, for a fact, I know women that only makes $24,000 a year, and they actually can save at least close to $5,000. And you wonder, at least here in the United States, you wonder, how is she doing that? Because the average income in the United States is about 36,000, and if this person is making 24,000 and she's still able to save $5,000 a year, how is she able to do that? Well, sometimes it's lifestyle choices, right? We need to think, what is it that is more important to us? If it's that pair of shoes that you really like at the store, or if it is saving for the future, so you don't have to be cleaning toilets, like later on in life or something like that, right? So
Yeah.
you have to, it's a matter of where are you putting the pain and where are you putting the joy.
Right. No, I know. And I have, again, as I mentioned, I grew up in an immigrant family. I was born in the Ukraine. And I had such an example of this from my grandmother because when we moved to the States, she was almost 60 years old. She was a top cardiologist in the Soviet Union, and she was passionate about her work. But she didn't speak much English, and so going back, and the United States doesn't recognize medical certifications and degrees from most other countries. So going back to medical school and residency and all that at almost 60 while not speaking English was not, something she could do. So she literally got a minimum wage job taking care of an elderly woman with Alzheimer's. And, this was years ago, so I don't remember how much she made, but it was very, very little. And
Mm-hmm.
yet my grandmother loved the arts and she always dreamed of traveling, right? Because in the Soviet Union you literally couldn't leave the country. So I mean, the woman never went out to eat. She always watched every penny, but yet every year she and her husband would manage a trip to Europe, to Hawaii, wherever she wanted to go. And I still remember because I was studying in Spain, and one of their stops on their European trip, it was like Europe by bus for a month, and they stopped in Madrid where I was living, and I went to the hotel where they were staying. And of course I was so embarrassed because I was 20 years old and I saw my grandmother. There was the breakfast buffet, and then she filled up her purse, so they would have food for lunch too. And I was so embarrassed at the time, being so young. But now, especially as we speak, I can really appreciate, what an example that was of like, she had her dream and she was making minimum wage, but she could still make her dream happen.
Yes, yeah. So that makes us think, what is it costing you not changing your financial education? What is it costing you right now? Right? How is that impacting you and your family? And that's what we all need to think about. First of all, like, are you drowning in debt? Is it that you're not being able to save, like separate money for an emergency fund? Do you have enough protection, for you and your family? Is that impacting negatively your family, your kids, right, and the rest of your family? Is it lowering your expectations? Do you feel that like that you're not enough? Your worthiness is getting affected because of that. Are you able to sleep? Are you living in stress, sleeplessness, or no peace of mind? Or are you losing opportunities because you don't have the money? Like, I don't know, in our community of coaches, a lot of times the coaches wants to do even bigger things, right? More things, but unfortunately the lack of money is taking them out of having great opportunities, right?
Yes.
So, and then the most important part, I would say, is having a strategy for the future. What is your exit strategy, right? Because if you're accustomed to certain lifestyle right now, what's going to happen later on when you want to retire? Have you even think about that? A lot of people, they don't think about that. They just, splurge and enjoy their money now, but later on they're not thinking that when they're not able to do the things that they're doing right now, what's going to happen? So those are things that we all need to think about and get financially educated.
Yes. So tell us how about your program? How do you work with people? Because I know this is what you do.
Yeah, so I do have a program that is called the Freedom Formula, and it's an 8-week course where where I take them from, how to get out of debt completely, right? And how to think about the future, where to put the money, what are the things that are most important, the self-limiting belief that we all have, how to eliminate the self-limiting beliefs and substitute them for positive and mantras that allow us to, like, progress. And again, anything that has to do with financial education is a an 8-week course. Obviously, I do one-on-ones as well, but very soon I'm actually launching a free challenge, right? Obviously, I think you're going to be talking about that in a little bit, but that at least, is a startup for anybody that is listening to this, for them to be able to at least, like, start somewhere and start separating the money, and then allocating your money on the things that are most important to you, right? And I'm not talking necessarily right now, but even in the future that are more necessary. Like, for example, in my case, like, I want to one of my goals is to go to Europe, right? And so I am definitely including that in my spending plan. I don't call it a budget; I call it a spending plan, because a lot of people has very negative connotation regarding the B word, the budget.
Who wants to
I know.
budget?
Same thing with the F word, finances. Those two words create a lot of different emotions for people. So
Yeah.
I try to talk about it and demystify that.
Yeah, make it more fun.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
we do. We
actually, yeah.
have such, we
Create a
have,
fun fund. Yes, absolutely. And for me, that's exactly that trip to Europe and putting the money aside for that is for me creating a fun fund, right? Because the fun is attached to that. So that's what I want.
right. So you're inspired to save because you know that allows you to do what you want to do and have fun
Absolutely.
and live the
Absolutely.
dream. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I so love, not only what you do, but your story, of how you use something, that we could all say is negative and probably maybe even devastating at the time, right? When the market crashed and you're seeing, your whole career. I mean, so many people live through that. But you really figured out how to make lemonade out of lemons, and sounds like, and really take your work to an even bigger level of fulfillment and of joy, right? By
we
teaching
all yes we
people,
all need to
especially
have a
women.
plan B. We all need to have a plan B. We think it's always good to have a plan B. I realized that at that moment. And again, things are changing by the minute. Like, technology is really advancing to a point that things are changing very rapidly.
Yeah.
And we need to think about that stuff. For example, here in the United States, I don't know if in Colombia they have Uber, but I know that it's already international. But I don't know if but like, at some point, we might not even need to drive. They might have electrical. The technology is advancing so much that we might not even need a driver.
Right. Yeah, they already have got cars and trucks that can drive themselves.
That's what I mean. So technology is advancing and is eliminating more and more people now with Amazon, or like even like all these big online companies is eliminating practically grocery stores, is eliminating so many things. So we do need to think about all that stuff and always have a plan B, and always think, okay, what is it that is more important to me right now, and how I can protect my future and the future of the family. In the end, we all want to have a legacy. We all want to leave a legacy, right? I don't necessarily have kids, but I do want people to remember me for something, right? So yes, I do want to create a community, a tribe, and a legacy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, when you speak, I mean, I think, that's from what living from passion and purpose is all about. Ultimately, I believe we all want to make a difference, and we do all want to leave something right behind, leave the world a better place than it was. So
Yes.
thank you so much for your part. So let me ask you, what the question I always ask everybody on this series: what would you say to your younger self? What advice would you have for your younger self? And this could be 5 years ago, 10, 20, whichever version of you needed to hear it the most.
So yeah, I again, like I said before, if I knew this stuff when I was in my early 20s, or even before that, it would be a completely different story. So I would tell her, get financially educated, because financial education is the path to freedom. And there's no doubt. I will tell her that.
Yeah. Well, actually, that brings to mind another question, because I do have 3 kids. And despite my education in finance, as I mentioned, I spent many years just not wanting to deal um, with our money, as long as, my husband was making enough that I didn't have to worry about it. I was happy. And of course, that was a whole growthful process of realizing how disempowering that was, and looking at that and where it comes from. That's why I remembered my mom and those comments, and becoming empowered around it. But, I know you mentioned you don't have kids, but this is what you would tell your younger self. So what advice would you have for the listeners who do have kids? Like, how can they raise kids, into people, and especially women who are empowered?
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's very important for them to know that they have that money comes, doesn't come from trees, and that they can, like that the money that you're spending on them is coming from something. It's coming from your hard work. It's coming from, so since they're little, they should learn how where is that coming, because a lot of times you buy these things with credit card,
right.
and and I'm talking even like toddlers, they observe, they know what you're doing, and they see that when you slide a car or when you give that paper, they get all these things, so they get um entitled. And that's what I'm seeing, especially with the millennials this day, and even the little kids that I see these days. They feel entitled. They're like, well, I want your phone, or I want this tennis shoes, or I want this, but they're not understanding where is that coming from. So sometimes, give them certain exercises, like for example, if they go to a place, right, and you're gonna buy them something, give them the money, right, that and then have them pay with the money, so they can see how the money goes away. That's probably, one way. um, the second thing is, obviously, have them work for some of the things that they have to do, so they don't feel that they're entitled to get anything and everything from you. They have to understand it. And I know a lot of dads these days that have been able to teach their kids to create their own business, start since very little, and I have seen many examples about that. And that actually empowers them and gives them the confidence that they can actually do something. And I'm not talking about just boys, I'm talking about girls too. That's
Yeah.
something that should be considered.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Were you able to hear
No.
me well? I wasn't sure if you were spacing out.
Yeah, we live in Colombia during the school year, and as you may know, since I know you lived here, it's not a big culture. I mean, if you're of a certain socioeconomic class, your kids just don't work, right? And when my kids like tried to do a lemonade stand in our little neighborhood, everybody thought it was so bizarre that, these kids are selling anything. But they love it, because in the summers we go back to the US, to the Boston area where we have our house. And the first thing they always want to do is have a big lemonade stand, because we live in a pretty urban area, so they can set up shop on a main street. And they even have had like shop owners put up signs to advertise for them, and they really rake it in. Like, then they can, they can really, and they love it. They get so excited about being able to make their own money,
Yes.
be it to save or to spend. So I know just from experience that what you're saying is so, so important.
Yeah, when I lived in Colombia, and even when I visit, like third world countries, I always saw little kids selling something. At least, we live, here in the United States, we live in a very privileged life. No matter, like being poor here is not really poor, right? Because there are other places that people are like like with more limitations. You know what I mean?
Oh,
But yeah, I don't think, even though it's sad to see those kids selling or doing things, but at the same time that empowers them at the same time, like that's what a lot of times people don't understand. Obviously we don't know what's behind, that we don't know the story of every single kid, but like in your case, you're trying to do something positive. It's not something negative, right? Um you're not bullying your kids to sell lemonade.
no, I just want them to earn a little money for their own things so that they can appreciate the concept of work. But the funny part is they love it more than I do. Because it
Yeah.
turns out, they like buying things with their own money or saving things. And the thing that really made me most happy is last summer, my youngest was only 7. And she wound up getting something like $20. But then she didn't want to spend it all at once. She started saying things like, wait, but if I save this now, then I can have what later? And I was like, yay, we're
Exactly.
getting it. That's
Yes, those are the concepts about money that we all need to learn as adults too.
yeah. Right. Well, I think that's why I'm sensitive about, because I feel like I had to learn a lot of these things as an adult. So then now I'm like, okay, how do I raise these kids so that they don't have to learn it as adults, right? Because as you pointed out, although it's never too late, everybody listening, now is absolutely better than never. But yeah, of course it's great. And I think it brings to mind an important point. The more we learn it now, the less our children have to learn later, because they will see us. They will see us making these different choices and paying down credit card debt and, saving and delaying our own gratification, and that will serve them as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Sarah, so how can people watching or listening find out more about your work?
Well, definitely going to my website, the Financially Fit Women. Also on Facebook, I do live videos with money tips and things that are related to our financial education. So yeah, make sure to go to the Financially Fit Women website. I have a blog that people can subscribe to, and that way they get on weekly basis information regarding financial education.
Okay, great. And I will have all these resources for everybody out there on the page where you found this recording. And do you want to just tell us for a minute about your upcoming challenge?
Yes. So
It's free, everybody. It's a free resource.
yes. So it's called From Hot Broke Mess, hot from yeah broke mess to I always forget the second part.
It's a success.
Yes. Um, to why I don't know why I always forget that that second part, but basically it's from broke hot mess to badass money babe. That's what I don't know why I always have problems with that badass, but yes, the badass money babe. And it's a 5-day challenge where we are going to look at our finances and then um, talk about methods and strategies that we can apply immediately to change our financial situation. And in just 5 days, it's a very short challenge, but just doing a little tweaks in those 5 days is going to allow you to be able to change your 2018 and from then on, right? Because we that's what we want. We want to be able to. The new year is coming up, and we want to be able to change that to make it even better than the previous years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. That sounds like a fantastic resource that's completely free and that people can start using to get
Absolutely.
financially fit. So thank you very much. So thank you for being on the show today and sharing all of your knowledge and your talents and your gifts, and also your story of how you came to be doing what you're doing. Everybody out there, thank you so much for listening. Make sure to check out Sarah's website and blog and do her challenge, because it's a really tremendous opportunity to start getting, your relationship with money into a better place. And if you are ready, in the upcoming new year to create the life of your dreams, to figure out what you were put on this earth to do and start doing it. Or maybe you know what it is, but you're afraid to move forward or feel stuck. Feel free to jump on my website and apply for a complimentary passion and purpose coaching call where we look at the number one thing that's holding you back and come up with a plan to overcome it. And that's at nataliematoschenko.com/call application. And other than that, thanks so much, everybody. Thanks so much, Sarah, and thanks so much, listeners.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor for sure.
Thanks for being here. It was so much fun. Bye, everybody.